What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the Take His Whistle podcast. I am your host, Josh, and I'm here, as always, with my co host, Parker.
What's up, everybody?
Today, if you notice the background difference, we've got an NFL episode for you guys. We're going to be going over a little bit of Week 5 action, which is still currently going on with the Raiders and Packers, and then we're going to be going over a little bit of Week 6, and then maybe some fantasy at the end. So, Parker, with that being said, where would you like to start?
Yeah, for sure. I think we kind of just go over not just last week, but just the whole NFL season altogether so far. Um, Kind of just going over exactly what has been the main storylines, what surprises have we seen from teams and players, and what is to come of those players if they can turn their season around. Um, a team that I kind of have been astonished by this kind of slow start is the Cincinnati Bengals. Um, 2-3. They just came off a win against the Cardinals, who the Cardinals are not good. Um, but man, you lose to the Browns, Ravens, and Titans. The Browns and Titans were absolutely terrible games, putting up 3 points in both of them. Um, not what I was expecting. Not what I was expecting. I was expecting big things. Last year was a little bit of a disappointment for the Bengals, especially coming off the Super Bowl performance. They didn't win, obviously, but at least get into the Super Bowl. The following year, came up a little bit short, a disappointing season, and now it's kind of like a train wreck in Cincinnati. Um, Joe Burrow.
Yeah,
Oh, sorry, you good?
I was just gonna say, I think a little. I think you were about to talk about it. Actually, I think a little bit of it has to do with the Joe Burrow injury and the injury he kind of dealt with for the first 3 weeks. Because, like you just mentioned, they started off 0-3, but now they're on a two game win streak, and I mean Joe Burrow's been healthy 2 weeks in a row, so I think that kind of says a lot for the Bengals team.
Yeah, definitely. And then they had another big injury offensive wise. T. Higgins fractured a rib, so T. Higgins hasn't been able to play. So they really haven't all been together healthy yet. Whether it's Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, I think Joe Mixon was kind of battling some type of injury. He didn't miss any time, but I think he was battling some type of injury. Um, it's hard. It's really hard, especially when you have so many crucial pieces like the Bengals have. That if one person misses, the whole entire team is missing a beat. Um, and I think that's kind of what we've seen with the Bengals so far this year. I think that they'll be all right going forward for sure, definitely. But definitely a strange start, and their schedule does not get any easier from here.
Yeah, I think missing Joe Burrow is definitely a bigger piece, at least in my own opinion, than T. Higgins. Mainly because they do have Jamar Chase over there in the outside as well, and then Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd is more than capable of stepping up when he needs to, and then I just not having your star QB who you just paid millions this offseason. It really hurts a team like that.
Yeah. Another team that is in the same exact boat as the Bengals is Josh, if I'm not mistaken, this is your favorite team, the Minnesota Vikings, right?
Yes, yeah, it is.
I don't know what has happened with them. They went from the number 2 seed in the NFC with probably the most electric offense in all of football to now they're struggling to even put up points. What has happened to this offense?
You know, this might be a hot take, but I'm gonna go ahead and say it. We might have one of the hardest starts to the season, strength wise. Um, we're going up against a high-powered Chargers team, which that was a very high. It wasn't a high-scoring game, but it was definitely a shootout. And then we play the Eagles week 2, and then we play the Chiefs this week. The Bucks they really showed up to play. I'm not gonna lie. Baker Mayfield made our defense look silly. Um, and Alexander Madison, we get rid of Dalvin Cook this offseason, and we turn to Alexander Madison and we say, hey, the reins are yours now. Go out there and show out. And he honestly hasn't done that. He's had problems carrying the ball. He's had problems just honestly running the ball, period. And I think that's a sign of why we signed Cam Akers or traded for Cam Akers just a couple weeks. I think it's been 2 weeks now. He hasn't done too much for the team yet, but I think he will in the long run. And obviously, we got our first win against the Panthers, but I mean, it's the Panthers. They haven't won a game yet, and Bryce Young looks like a bust up to this point. But that's a conversation for later. I just, and it's not like the offense isn't performing like they did last year. The offense is doing great. Maybe great is a bit of a reach, but they're doing well. You know, Jay Jettis is performing well. Jordan Addison's looking like one of the best rookies in the league so far, and Kirk is having a good season as well. I see a lot of people saying Kirk isn't doing good. He is doing good. He's putting up MVP numbers. He's competing with any other top QB that you see in the league right now, and I think the big part of it is our defense, and it was the same exact thing last year. Our defense is a little bit lackluster, and I really hope Brian Flores, who was a very big headline news signing for us, I just really hope he can turn that defense around, because I think it's our defense that's still letting us down a little bit, allowing these teams to score on us when it really shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, I agree. And to one of your points about the offensive struggles, kind of um, big injury this past week in
Don't get me started. Don't get me started.
with Jettas. I was actually just reading an article before we started the podcast about him. Kevin O'Connell. Now you asked Justin himself. He's ready to go, and like most people, I mean, he knows his body better than anybody else, better than any doctor. He knows his body, and he says he's ready to go. You ask Kevin O'Connell, though, he's saying that it's kind of all over the place. He has no idea at this exact moment, especially even as soon as next week in Chicago. They don't know if he's going to be ready to go. But man, how major could that turn out to be for really the rest of the season?
I mean, if he misses just even 3 weeks, you're looking at our next 3 games. We play the Bears, which, you know, the last 2 weeks, I know they lost one. I know they're 1-1 in the last 2 weeks, but the last game, Justin Fields looked amazing. And with the way our defense is looking, if Justin Fields can piece us up like he did against the God, I'm blanking out. Who'd they play this week?
Chiefs.
Do you know off the top of your head? The Chiefs. Wait.
The Bears?
The Commanders.
Oh
if
yeah,
he
my bad.
pieces
I'm
us up,
sorry.
no, you're good. If he pieces us up like he did against the Commanders, we could be in for a rude awakening. And the Bears is not a team that you want to lose to, especially not this season with how bad they started off with. And then you move on from that, and we play the 49ers after the Bears, and that is definitely a game where you're looking at that and you go, we don't have Jay Jettas, we might be screwed. And then after that, we play the Packers, who are currently losing to the Raiders, but are not a bad team by no means.
Yeah,
they're
not
a very young team. They're a very young team. But, you know, with no Jay Jettas, I mean, Jay Jettas is just such a big part of our offense. I mean, Jay Jettas is our offense. Without him, you know, I know we have Hawk and I know we have Jordan Addison, but it's just, it's such a questionable game if you don't have Jay Jettas coming into it. And like you said, he knows his body better than anybody else, but that's the type of mentality a player like that's going to have no matter who it is. You know, he could have torn his ACL and said he was ready to go. So I like the coach's word over Jay Jettas, because, you know, it's nothing against Jay Jettas. I'm sure he is fine, but I just, you know, I can't trust a player when I know 99% of the NFL would say the same thing about themselves if they got hurt as well.
Yeah, they just want to go out and play. They don't care what condition their body's in. They just want to get out there and play.
Yeah.
And
I'm sorry to cut you off, but, you know, I've been seeing a lot of things about Jay Jettas being potentially upset with the start of the season, and I just want to say, no shit. No player is going to be happy about starting off 1-4. Like, I don't think you'd find, especially a player like Jay Jettas, and especially on a team like the Vikings, who just went, what was it, 10-6 last year? No, that doesn't sound right.
No,
I don't even.
I want to say they only had
Am
like
I right?
they only had about 3 or 4 losses. If I'm not mistaken.
I gotta look that up later. I'm like completely blanking on my own team and everything. But with the amazing season like we had last year, it's just one of those things where it's like you come into this season and you expect better, if not the same, especially with all the pieces that we added through the draft and free agency. Excuse me. And I don't think Jay Jettis is the only player that's upset either. You could probably take a camera to that whole sideline on any break in the game and see all of them being upset. And, I just. And I've seen a lot of trade rumors for this offseason revolving around Jay Jettis. I I question the Vikings every day about why we haven't extended him. I honestly don't know why we're not throwing the team at him as an offer, to be honest. I really don't know what's taking so long. I figured there would have been a deal done this most recent offseason, but obviously I was wrong. And, Kirk's going to be a free agent after this year, so I'm really starting to question what's going to happen for the rest of the season as far as what are we going to do this upcoming offseason, depending on how the rest of this season pans out. We could be a bottom feeder in the league this year, and we could be targeting Caleb Williams in the draft. So, it's such a toss up right now, starting 1-4. It's upsetting, but I'm sure this team can turn it around.
And I heard you say something about Kirk Cousins might be in a free agent. Is that somebody you would even want to extend? I know, like you said, he's put up MVP numbers, and he did last year too. He was, if I'm not mistaken, he was in the MVP race all the way until the final week. But is he really, really the guy that can send their team over the edge, make that strong, not just playoff push, but Super Bowl push? Because you saw last year against the Giants in the playoffs, Cousins kind of shot away from the spotlight whenever the stage got as big as the playoffs. Is that somebody you want back in a Minnesota Vikings jersey next year?
Yeah, I'm super conflicted about Kirk. I like him. I like him as a player. I like him as a guy. He's super humble. You listen to him after every single game, and he blames himself. Even if it was on the defense, even the defense could have given up a 99-yard game-winning touchdown, and Kirk would blame himself. He's just that type of teammate and that type of leader. I just think, like you said, like many people know, he's not good in those primetime situations, those big games. He's good every other game. He's good during the regular season. But once you put him in those playoff games, he just has a history of choking and not performing like he should be performing, especially with the weapons he has around him. You would think he'd be able to perform slightly better. Now, with that being said, I'm not one to question a team's moves. If the Minnesota Vikings trust Kirk for a couple more years and they go after a rookie quarterback in the draft to play under him for a couple years, I'm okay with that, to be honest. Like I said, I'm not one to question the team's moves. Like I said, I like Kirk. I like him as a player. He's a good leader. He's a very good leader, and we've seen this magical turnaround in players before, where they kind of have a history of choking, and then they kind of turn it around and pull one off. Aaron Rodgers. Earlier on in his career when he was still on the Packers, that year that they went to the Super Bowl and won. Before that, he had a history of choking in big games but performing very well in the regular season. Peyton Manning, historically known as a choker in the playoffs, but that one season in Denver, so we've seen it before. And I know Kirk, I'm not saying Kirk is on the level of Aaron Rodgers and Peyton Manning, so please don't freak out on me on that. But what I'm saying is we've seen that type of turnaround before in players, so I'm not gonna throw Kirk away and say that he can't do the same thing, even though he is on the older side of his career.
And it's so unfortunate for a guy like Kirk Cousins because, like you said, he's such a humble guy. He's such a he. All he wants to do is play football and win football, and that's how he's been his whole career. But he is just the type of player that, especially now, the older he gets, he's not that player like the Jets signing Aaron Rodgers that you're like, okay, that automatically makes them a Super Bowl contender. On the other side, he's not that type of player where a team like, I don't know, like the Buccaneers or like the Broncos, that a team that is starting a rebuilding phase, that they're like, okay, he is the first step to starting this franchise, restarting this franchise. And so he's kind of like this gray area of these quarterbacks that he just doesn't really have a place. He really doesn't. And like I said, I hate saying that about the guy. Um, but I mean, if he can't show up in the biggest moments, I mean, where is he supposed to go besides a backup role?
I will say if the Vikings don't keep him as our starter after this 2023-2024 season, if we don't keep him after this year, I will say this, I am very confident that he will move on to be the starter on another team.
Oh, he will.
I believe that he will.
I think it's going to be a very similar situation to what Mayfield's doing in Tampa. Obviously, Mayfield is more than likely not the future of Tampa Bay. That's another guy I love rooting for. I love just the type of person Baker Mayfield is, but he's more or less he's a filler. He's a filler for this season for Tampa, maybe even next year until they find their guy at quarterback. And I feel like if Cousins does hit free agency, that's the kind of role he's going to be playing for maybe even the rest of his career.
Yeah. I agree. But for now, I'm putting my trust in Kirk. I'm putting my trust in the Vikings staff. I'm trusting them to turn this season around, and I hope that they can do it and get it done. But to turn the tables here on you, Parker, let's get away from the Vikings talk here for a little bit, and let's talk about you, man. A former Cowboys fan. You kind of you know they let you go. They let you into free agency a couple years ago,
Now,
and
let's not get it twisted. I asked to be released.
okay, you asked for your release. They granted it, and now you're kind of floating around in free agency right now. So what do you see as a just an NFL enjoyer, a football fan, and what do you kind of see? Are you leaning towards a team at all here in this season? Are you seeing anything you like? You know, what can you give us anything?
As far as a team that I guess I should say I root the most for this season, that if I watch them play, I'm rooting for them. And it's a team that you briefly talked about for a moment. It is the Bears. It's the Chicago Bears. As bad as they are, um, and a very similar kind of conversation to Kirk Cousins is Justin Fields. And the reason I bring this up is because I saw a few people talk about the same thing. Um, the 4-0 start was horrendous for the Bears. They played some of the worst football maybe in franchise history,
Oh,
especially
before.
especially yeah, my bad. Especially against the Broncos. You give up a 28-point lead in the fourth quarter is crazy. But I saw somebody saying that they want the Bears to tank so they can get Caleb Williams in the draft. I think it just blows my mind that they are giving up on Justin Fields so quickly in Chicago. He hasn't been perfect. He has not been perfect whatsoever. But he is when he is on, like we saw on Thursday against Washington. When he is on, this team is so deadly with mid weapons. Besides Terry McLaurin, their second best receiver is who? Curtis Samuel. They got some pretty mid weapons, and he can light that. He can light any team up, and it looks like Chicago is very. He's on thin ice. It looks like in Chicago, and I just can't believe it.
So are you talking about like the Commanders and like the the team that they have and like compared to the Bears, or because I think you kind of confused the Bears and the Commanders there for a second.
Wait, what did I say?
So you said Justin Fields' weapons were Curtis Samuel and Terry McLaurin, but they're
Oh
on the
shit,
Commanders.
shit.
I think you're talking about DJ Moore.
Yes, yes. My bad. My bad. I had the commander schedule pulled up, and I was my bad. No, yeah.
No, you're fine.
DJ Moore and Daryl Mooney is the two I was talking about. My bad. Still very similar to McLaurin and Samuel. Um, Mid weapons, Mooney and Moore. Not some receivers that are going to blow you out of the water. But still, my point still stands. Justin Field can make them look like all pro receivers.
Yeah, I gotta say, honestly, I personally like DJ Moore a lot. I kind of thought his stock would drop a little bit going to the Bears just because, a lot of people call Justin Fields a bad passer. But let me tell y'all this. He is tied for the leading touchdown passer in the league right now at 11 touchdown passes. And he has quite literally done that in 2 games, I think. Um, I mean, if that doesn't show you the potential of Justin Fields, then as a Bears fan, I don't know what you're thinking. Um, Personally, I like Justin Fields. I think he has a lot of potential. I think his dual threat ability is next to none, and we saw that a little bit last year. His running ability and a couple passes that he was able to make last year, we saw it. We saw flashes. And these last 2 weeks this year, we've seen it. We're seeing it right now. The way he torched that Commanders defense with DJ Moore is unreal. And a lot of people, when the Bears signed DJ Moore or traded for DJ Moore, they were hyping this team up a lot. People were giving them a chance. And obviously, they started off 0-4. And in that fourth game, they, kind of showed flashes. And then here in week 5, I mean, they just blow the Commanders out of the water. And I just, if you're a Bears fan, all I got to say is just stop with the tank talk for now and just give Justin Fields another chance. Give Justin Fields a chance because he hasn't had weapons like DJ Moore in his career thus far. And if you look at these last 2 games, you're seeing what he can do with a receiver like that. And I think people are giving up on him way too easily. And I mean, yeah.
That and then like another issue is the defense. I mean, they have some really good pieces, like DJ Edwards having a great season so far. They have some good players. Jaquan Brisker is another great. I love watching him play. But they have some very noticeable holes in their defense that need to be addressed. And that was so evident in the Broncos game where they gave up 31 unanswered points. So it's not all this season so far. The 1-4 start, the 0-4 start, the very start of the season, the 0-4 start. It's not just on Fields. Now he's the scapegoat. Everybody wants to blame Fields, but that defense has got to be better.
Yeah, they do. It's the same way with the Vikings, The offense can be electric, and then the defense just, they just giving up so many points, allowing teams to score at will on them. And this defense has pieces, like you said, T.J. Edwards, Jaquan Brisker, Tremaine Edmonds, who they signed in free agency from, I believe, the Bills, I believe. A very good pickup at middle linebacker for them. Yannick Ngakoue, who has been a very solid player for multiple teams in the past 5 years, for the Raiders and the Ravens alike. And then they have a rookie in Jervon Dexter Sr., a big D lineman out of Florida who has a lot of potential. And, they have pieces. It's just all about development and then keep building them, whether it's through free agency or the draft. It's just all about building that defense. And then also at the same time, building that offense for Justin Fields if they so choose to keep going with Fields, that is.
Yeah. A little shift here. Another team that I love watching And I would have loved watching them even more if Aaron Rodgers was still on the team. Is the Jets? Um, Zach Wilson is kind of, I mean, with the situation he was given, he's done his job for the most part. A 2-3 season. They beat the Bills. Now they lost pretty convincingly to the Cowboys, and then lost a wash up game to the Patriots. But really had the Chiefs beat until Patrick Mahomes wanted to be Patrick Mahomes, and then again this past week, week 5, they beat the Broncos in Denver. The Jets, they're a fun team to watch. If you sit down and watch the Jets play, they are electric, both defense and offense. And Zach Wilson, I mean, he really I don't have any complaints. He didn't have the best game against the Broncos. Only 199 yards and a pick. So he didn't have like a crazy, crazy game, but also not something where that's going to cost them that ball game. I like
Right.
what New York is doing. Um,
I mean, look, that defense is just so young and so talented. It really doesn't get better than them. I mean, you got Sauce, you got Jermaine Johnson, you got Quinnen Williams. Just you have so many pieces on that team that are young and good, and it's just it genuinely they have done so well building that defense up, and it really reminds me of back in the day when they had Revis, and that defense led by Revis was very good. I don't know if it was as young as this defense is, but it's pretty comparable. I mean, Sauce is one of the best corners in the league, and it's his second year in the league. So, I mean, and then you switch over to the offensive side. You got people like Brees Hall. You got Garrett Wilson. It's just such a young team, so much development to be had. And honestly, I think they have a bright future. I don't think Zach Wilson is their long-term goal
no,
at
not at all.
QB,
Not at all.
and Aaron Rodgers is a bit questionable because you really just don't know how long he's gonna stay in the league. I can almost guarantee he'll probably play at least another year.
I don't know,
If
man.
he doesn't come back this year, I think I would say he'd at least want to play 1 year with the Jets. I
I,
would say.
I don't know, man. I'll be
Um,
honest. I coming off a Achilles tear, that's hard stuff to come back from, man. Especially at that old of an age. I could easily see Rogers kind of calling it quits.
Hey, it definitely is not the most favorable injury for a QB, but hey, listen, if you're Aaron Rodgers and you're getting surgery and then popping some shroomies and you're walking 2 weeks later after surgery, anything's possible. Anything is possible.
Yeah, bro, really just came out and just randomly just walking around like normal in a fucking ankle brace. Like I don't know.
Yeah, I really don't know how he's walking right now. I don't think anybody who is suffering a torn Achilles is walking like that 2 weeks later. And actually, now that we're talking about a torn Achilles, J.K. Dobbins from the Ravens is actually, I've seen some reports saying that him and Aaron Rodgers have been rehabbing together since they have both suffered the same injury. And, you hate to see it for both of them, but, it's nice to see that they're rehabbing together, getting some player what's the word I'm looking for? A player relationship going, I guess, is a good way to put it. Which, if we're gonna talk about anybody, I feel so bad for J.K. Dobbins, man. He just has so much. He has so much potential, but he just can't stay healthy. And he could be such a good running back right now in the league if he could just stay healthy for more than 1 week.
If I'm not mistaken, this is like his third year in a row of just constant injuries for the man, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah.
God,
He can't stay healthy.
yeah, that is an unfortunate situation for him. Um, the Ravens as a whole, though, what are you seeing from them?
I mean, as a Louisville fan, I love to cheer for him. I love Lamar. He has not looked the same since that 28 was it 2018 or 2019?
When he won the
I think it was
MVP,
20. Yeah,
was that
I
was his
believe it.
sophomore year?
I believe it was 2019.
Was it his sophomore year?
Yeah, it was his sophomore year.
2017 was his sophomore year.
Was it?
Yeah, yeah, really. It was a rookie 2016.
All right, so he really hasn't looked the same since his MVP season. And, last year he kind of had some nagging injuries that kept him out of a few games. This year he's been healthy, thankfully. And he's looked okay. He's looked pretty good. He's got those new weapons in Zay Flowers. He's got Mark Andrews fully healthy back. He's got Odell, who has honestly been suffering little injuries pretty much every game. But that's kind of expected when it comes to Odell. I mean, Odell hasn't looked the same in years, but still a good receiver nonetheless. And I think the Ravens are fine. I think they're doing fine. They are 3-2. But yeah, I think they're playing fine for who they have healthy and for who they've played thus far in the season. They're doing just fine.
And for my thing on Lamar is he is still the most he really is still the most electric player in football. He finds a way no matter what. And I know I've criticized his passing skills in the past, but if he is not throwing it, it's almost a guaranteed 10-yard run. Like he's still so much fun to watch. The thing with him compared to some of these other somewhat mobile quarterbacks, he is not afraid of contact. He will lower his shoulder into somebody and not care. The thing with that is quarterbacks can't do that. They just can't. It's not sustainable for a healthy, successful NFL career. And like to your point, he has stayed healthy this year, but the past few years he does have these little nagging injuries, and and a terrible immune system. I feel like the dude was sick like 5 times last year. Um, but these little
Yeah,
injuries,
he caught the flu or something and missed like 3 weeks. It was pretty ridiculous.
yeah, something like that. I was like, God. But these injuries, the older that he gets, they're only going to get worse if he keeps taking these big shots. I know I was watching them not this past week, but when they were playing the Browns last or the week 4, he took one shot that I was like, he got sandwiched in between two Browns players, and I was like, and he popped right back up. But I'm just like, he can't take those type of hits. You see someone like Justin Fields, that is a little bit more is a somewhat mobile quarterback, and he can be electric when he wants to be. He is not taking those types of hits. Now, obviously, it's football; it's going to happen at some point. But you see him kind of trying to avoid contact, whether it's sliding, run out of bounds. Lamar's not that way, really. He full blown is like, you want to come at me, I'm going to lower my shoulder. We st-
Yeah, and I didn't mean to cut you off. What were you saying?
I was like, you just saw it with. Now I know this wasn't really a contact injury like Lamar does, but Robert Griffin the third back in Washington a few years ago, very similar play style as far as mobile, not scared of contact, wanting to take the big hits. Obviously, you saw where his career went.
Yeah, it's difficult to say about RG3 because the what if on him is just so outstanding. And if he wouldn't have torn his ACL in that, I believe it was his sophomore season, I just, it hurts to think about because I loved watching RG3. He was quite literally
Yeah,
Lamar before Lamar. And
yeah.
honestly, a cornerstone, to be honest, for players like Lamar. Obviously, people think about Michael Vick, but you got to throw RG3 in there. And the way he turned around that Washington team was, it was something to watch. It was definitely something to watch.
And he did it so fast too. Like everybody knew RG3 was going to be good, right? But the way he did it and how fast it's very similar to what Lamar did and is doing in Baltimore. Joe Flacco was just a black pit for Baltimore. They finally give Lamar a chance, and year 2, I think he won MVP. He led them to one of, if not the best record in the AFC. What
Undefeated.
Lamar's were they undefeated?
It was either undefeated or they'd lost one game. I can't remember, but it was
Yeah,
one of those.
and very similar to what RG3 did in Washington. Um, and so like those type of quarterbacks, they're such a rare breed, but you have to handle with care. You have
Yeah.
to somehow put it through their head that unfortunately, this is not college anymore. These are grown ass men that are trying to take your head off every single play. Um,
Yeah.
but also at the same time, I mean, these kids have been playing football since they were 3 years old. All they know is contact. They know like lower your shoulder, hit this man, and it's just an unfortunate situation with mobile quarterbacks.
Yeah, and just a quick little thing, since we're talking about the NFL and everything, real quick, I do just want to say, me and Parker played each other in fantasy this week, and our game has officially ended with me winning by 4 points, thanks to Jordan Love's astonishing 5 point game.
No, that it's not thanks to that. It's thanks to Aaron Jones. 15 minutes before kickoff, decides I don't feel like playing today, so I picked up the Raiders' second or third string running back. Didn't even get a carry, not even a carry. And
It was a
and
very unfortunate.
just to let everybody know, I was undefeated in that league. I had undefeated, perfect season aspirations, and Aaron Jones deciding just not to do his job today cost me that.
Definitely a tragic moment that I can let you rant about more later. But one thing I want to talk about, Parker, while we're on the topic of mobile QBs, we have a rookie QB on our hands over in Indianapolis who we might be seeing the injury-prone struggles of a mobile quarterback in his first year of his NFL career. And the player, of course, I'm talking about is Anthony Richardson. I'm pretty sure we're 5 weeks into the season, correct?
Yep.
And he has missed or gotten injured in, I believe, 4 out of the 5 games. And
Yep.
a lot of that has to do with him running the ball and just not wanting to get tackled, putting his head down, trying to run through these big D linemen, big linebackers who are just trying to rip his head off. And we're seeing we're seeing the unfortunate result of a player that tries to do that, especially at the QB position. I mean, in week 2, he suffered a concussion and missed week 3. In week 4, I think he went down with yet again another potential concussion. It didn't keep him out of that game. And then in week 5 this week, we see him now. This wasn't the result of him running the ball or anything, but I do believe it was because he got hit. We saw him dislocate his shoulder. At least that's what it looked like. It was definitely a shoulder injury of some kind, and it sucks to see him getting hurt literally every week because he's such a promising player. I mean, watching him play, honestly, has been really fun. He's a really fun player to watch, but you'll watch him play and then he'll just get hurt in the third quarter and he won't come back in, and it's like, what are we doing? Like, why can't he stay healthy? What's going on here? Like, give him a couple. Maybe should they give him a week or 2 to sit out and just relax his body?
Yeah, I know Richardson coming from Florida. He got drafted so early, and me, who I watched most of. If I didn't watch, I was definitely paying close attention to. Was all Florida's games last year, and I was like, Anthony Richardson never really he had a couple good games, but nothing that resulted him getting drafted as high as he did. Um, and then he gets to Indianapolis. He wins the starting job to start the season over Minshew, who that's a player I could go on about who just been criminally he's been treated so bad in the NFL, but he won the starting job over
He's a starter on another team. He's a starter on another team.
who Minshew.
Yes.
Oh, dude, he's done nothing but win in his career, and he gets treated like complete crap. But Richardson, he comes into Indianapolis, wins the starting job, and I'm like, okay, before I start critiquing, let me see what what he's about. And he really, I know he had a pick against Jacksonville before he kind of went down. But I mean, dude, he lit it up, running the ball and throwing the ball. He was really what everybody said he was going to be that I didn't see from him. at Florida. And I will say Anthony Richardson, so far, the small amount of times we've seen him play, he has definitely blown past my expectations.
Yeah, in the very minimal amount of time that he's played in games, he has 577 yards for 3 touchdowns and 1 pick, which I know on the surface you might be like, that's horrible. Like, why are we talking about this guy like he's really good? And let me tell you this: he has 25 carries for 136 yards and 4 touchdowns in rushing.
He has 4
So
touchdowns. I did not know that. That's
he has
crazy.
4 rushing touchdowns.
That is
So
that might lead the league besides Jalen Hurts in rushing touchdowns for quarterbacks.
yeah, you might be right about that. Um, but I mean, I say those passing stats, but then I also add those running stats in there, and he's having a hell of a season so far with the limited time that he's played. And it again, I'm gonna repeat it again. It really sucks to see him going down every single week, and I'm getting reminiscent about Andrew Luck with how much he's getting hit. Now, I know not all of it is sacks like Andrew Luck, but just the aspect of him being the QB for the Colts is what does it for me. Because Andrew Luck should still be in the league right now, and he should still be on the Colts, and he should still be tearing it up like he was.
What a unfortunate situation Indianapolis has been in ever since Andrew Luck. Like they just haven't, whether it's injuries or just like picking bad quarterbacks. Like the Matt Ryan deal last year was terrible. Matt Ryan was awful, and they quickly found out he's not the answer. I think they had before that Jacoby Brissett was their starting quarterback. Indianapolis has always, or for recent history, has had really bad quarterbacks, and it's unfortunate because that's a team that it's close to home. You want to see that somewhat close team succeed, and they haven't been able to find it yet.
Yeah, Andrew Luck really screwed over the Colts when he retired right before
Yeah,
the season started. It
yeah,
was really bad timing for him to do that, but I understand why he did that. I completely understand, not being able to play the game you love when your body is just failing on you. I completely understand it, but it was so bad timing of him to do it when he did it. Moving on though
right.
from that, Parker, there's a little topic that's been going on since I want to say week 3, maybe week 2 of the NFL season. It is a certain singer that we grew up listening to,
Oh my God.
and she is, according to reports, maybe dating Mr. Travis Kelsey, and obviously the person we were talking about is Taylor Swift. Parker, do you think the NFL is overdoing it, and why?
First of all, I heard you say, is it not confirmed that they're dating yet? Is it still not even confirmed?
It's still up in the air. I really don't think people know, but she's been to every single Chiefs game since that rumor came out. So,
Right,
that's
right.
that's up for the people.
My only take with that is I know what the NFL is doing. I know what they're doing. They will never admit it, but I know what they're doing. They are trying to appeal to um, maybe a more female viewed audience, maybe a little a younger age audience. I know that's why they're doing it. And you go on
A
ESPN
massive
after,
audience too.
yeah, I mean Taylor Swift is one of, if not the biggest artist right now. Um, but you go on ESPN after a Sunday, and that's all you see. I open up TikTok, and I'm seeing videos of it. I open up Twitter or X. I'm sorry, I open up X, and that's all I see. And I'm just like, you're gassing it. You're milking it. You're milking it.
Hey,
I
listen, in
I
my book, you can still call it Twitter.
okay, good. Twitter. Um, which kind of like a plug. There will be a Take His Whistle Twitter coming soon. and keep your eyes open for that one. That is something that is in the works right now. Um, but I don't have a problem with you showing Taylor Swift because like you see at the Louisville game, you get on ESPN after the Louisville game, and there was like 3 or 4 posts about Jack Harlow being there. You every game you watch and there's a celebrity there, more than likely they're going to show it. Especially at NBA games, you see it all the time with Drake being at Raptors games. Um, so I don't have a problem if you show these celebrities once or twice. Um, but whenever you gas it the way that ESPN has, the way the NFL has, and just media a whole, it gets not even to the point where like, oh my gosh, okay, I see it. It's to the point where it's frustrating because you take away one thing that really kind of got on me or kind of got under my skin was Jerick McKinnon broke off like a 20-yard run. I think it was a catch that he broke off for like a 20-yard run and a touchdown. And the first thing they didn't show McKinnon's celebration, what the team did together, the team cheering or whatever it is, the coach, Andy Reid, they went straight to Taylor Swift. Travis Kelce had nothing to do with that play. I don't even know if he was on the field for that play. And they still went straight to Taylor Swift. What does that have to do with anything? If that's the case, then
Yeah,
why aren't you, I'm sorry.
I just want to jump in here. I think the play you might be talking about is Isaiah Pacheco, who broke off for like a 20, 30, like you said, 20, 30-yard run, which, by the way, that also made me really mad because not only was it an amazing run, but Isaiah Pacheco is from that area. He lives 2 hours down the road, and that was his first touchdown in essentially his home city. And like you said, the first thing they did was just immediately pan to Taylor, and they didn't show him at all. And it was, a very, I'm sure, emotional moment for Pacheco, or a very amazing moment for Pacheco at the very least. And like you said, the first thing they did was just pan over to Taylor, and I'm totally okay with showing her once or twice, even a quarter, once or twice a quarter. That's fine. But after every single play, showing her reaction, I mean, what are we doing? Like, what are we doing, NFL? Seriously.
And another thing, even if you watch the Chiefs games played, even the commentators are talking about Taylor Swift. The football will be playing, and they're still talking about Taylor Swift.
Can I say I saw something on Twitter today, and you might not believe me, but I swear to God it's true. At the Vikings Chiefs game last night, they had put tape around the box that she was sitting in and labeled it Taylor Swift so that the cameraman knew where to pan when they needed to pan to her.
That's insane.
If that is not saying something about how ridiculous it is getting, then I don't know what is. And I'm sorry, Swift fans. I'm sorry, Swifties. But, like, obviously, welcome to the NFL. It's a great sport, It's an amazing sport to watch. I'm glad you guys are giving the NFL more money and more views. It's awesome. But, I mean, it's just so intense. Like, I can't even watch a football game anymore without expecting to see Taylor Swift 100 times a game.
And I mean, I don't really know exactly how they feel about it, but I mean, imagine you are a wife and a mother of this NFL player's kids, and all you see is Travis Kelsey's maybe sort of girlfriend. I feel like that would kind of make me feel some type of way, you know?
Yeah, I mean, these players work their entire lives to get to these moments. They work their asses off to make the 53-man roster. They work their asses off to touch that field every Sunday. And to get in the end zone for the first time in your career, or even any time in your career, and especially if you're a family member of that player, to have that moment taken away by the cameras panning to a pop star, country star, whatever you want to say she is now. She's done a million things at this point. Amazing artist, obviously, but to have that moment taken away is just like, yeah, I mean, people got to be feeling a certain type of way about it. I mean, yeah, listen, even Travis Kelce himself said that the league is overdoing it.
He said on that podcast with his brother, right?
Yeah, he said it on the New Heights podcast.
Right, right. I mean, yeah, I mean he gets it. Now whether that's I wonder, you got to kind of take it with a grain of salt. I wonder if he is somewhat just saying that to be the good guy in the situation.
I mean,
I
he knows what he's doing. He knew what he was getting himself into. He even admitted it. Like, he knew the attention it would bring to the league. He knew the attention it would bring to the Chiefs. He knew what it would bring on the Kelsey name, him specifically. Like, he knew what he was doing. But, obviously, when you got Taylor Swift dangling in front of you, why not take the shot? You know what I mean? But
yeah,
it's just, the league is overdoing it.
and then also the Chiefs. I mean, that's another thing. I mean, as long as the Chiefs are winning and the Chiefs are as good as they will be, um, I think we're going to continue to see it. I don't think there's going to be a change, especially ESPN. As far as ESPN goes, their social media pages are kind of getting outrageous with their posts. Now, the NFL, I can see them kind of dialing it back, but as far as sports media as a whole and pop culture as a whole, I don't see it slowing down as long as the Chiefs are still winning.
Yeah, and while we're on the topic of the Chiefs, we're gonna get away from the Taylor Swift talk, and
Thank
we're
God.
gonna. I apologize for this, Parker, and the listeners, but we're gonna shake it off for now. And
God
can
damn
we
it.
talk?
Oh my God.
Can we talk? But I don't know if you've been keeping up with Twitter. I don't know if you've been seeing the things about the Chiefs, but how do you feel about maybe the refs kind of handing Chiefs a couple of these wins they've gotten in the past couple weeks?
They want to say that the Cowboys are America's football team, right? They always get the home cooking. That's not it. You have, not only do you have the Taylor Swift, Travis Kelce things going on, um, but to a lot of people, Patrick Mahomes is already the GOAT of NFL quarterbacks. That's not me saying that. Don't get it
Wild,
twisted. I don't think that.
wild.
But I guarantee, and I know firsthand, I know people that will say that firsthand, that Patrick Mahomes is the GOAT. So you add both of those combined, and then also the fact that the Chiefs just continue to find a way to win. They lose Tyreek Hill. You think their offense is gonna shit the bed? They don't. Their offense even comes back this year. It's even a worse offense this year, and they are continuously to win. The Chiefs are still much or must watch TV. They're always on TV, national television. I think that the NFL, I don't want to say that. I don't, because I just don't want it to be true, but I could definitely see the NFL doing some type of, we got to keep this Chiefs dynasty alive, whether that's making some favorable calls or not.
Yeah, I hate saying the NFL is rigged. I really do, but
Me as well.
I'm gonna be one of those fans as of right now, and I'm just gonna say I've seen some videos on Twitter that make it very sketchy and make my mindset change a little bit about what the hell's going on, because there's some videos of some missed calls and some calls where you're like, why did that happen? And I saw a video today. Granted, it it wasn't really that great of a video. It didn't even really show It didn't really even show proof of what they were claiming happened. But there was a flag thrown during the Vikings Chiefs game. It was a defensive pass interference call on Jordan Addison in the end zone, and I think there was like a minute left in the game. Maybe it would have been the game tying touchdown, and they threw the flag, and the head ref came running over to the sideline ref, and apparently pointed up to Taylor Swift, and then the sideline ref picked his flag back up after that. Now,
That's
I know
crazy. That's
that's
wild.
I know that that probably isn't true. And I'm not going to say that the refs actually did that. I'm not going to say that the league was in the ref's ear saying, you better pick that flag back up. I'm not saying that. Listen, but with the things I've been seeing and hearing about the Chiefs, it's I know we've got a buddy of ours that's a Chiefs fan, and listen, if you're listening, I I've got some questions for you, buddy, because what the hell is going on with your team?
Yeah, I'm with you. I don't want to sit there and say that the NFL is not just the NFL, but just all professional sports is rigged. But I mean, this is a pretty good topic to have really quick. The uproar of AI, how fast AI has continuously gotten more and more popular, and it's more and more advanced. Is there a world where, because I know baseball is actually working on it right now. The MLB is working on it. Is there a world where football does the same thing, where they basically get rid of referees and all their officiating is really AI generated?
I think they will keep the human refs out there just because I think it's a certain aspect of the game that I don't think they'd change. Now, I could be very wrong about that. They could definitely just go 100% AI, but there's, there. I don't think AI could do everything. Now, I could definitely probably just eat my words there. But like I said, I think there's an aspect of the game of having the human refs there, and I think the AI will be more of a secondary thing. Whereas if the refs can't get anything, like if the refs can't get something right and they need the help of the AI, then the league will call on the I'm gonna use air quotes here, the AI refs to make the definitive call for something that the human refs might not be able to pull off.
Right, right, right. And to my point, like I know the MLB, they are now they might still be a few years away, but they are looking to do like basically a digital strike zone. So the big thing in MLB is these refs are they don't know how to call baseball games where strikes are balls and balls are strikes. They just mess it up all the time. So they're thinking about getting a digital AI where they can exactly see where that ball is pinpointed and if it's a ball or a strike. That is something that the NFL doesn't have. They don't have something like balls and strikes to be called where they can use AI like that. And like I agree with your point. There's a certain aspect of the game where you can't have AI. Um, Now there is some plays, calls, whatever you want to call it, where AI could be used, and we could see it a few years down the line. But for the most part, there's so many things that can happen in one play of football that just wouldn't be realistic.
Yeah, yeah, I agree. The way AI is developing is honestly a little scary, but if if it can be good in if it can be used in good ways, like being able to say that the Des Bryant catch was actually a catch, then I'm all
Oh
for
man, that was the downfall of me becoming a Cowboys fan. That play right there,
it.
still to this day. But I mean,
It's a haunting play. It's a haunting play.
this is a
So,
great segue into another quarterback issue I want to talk about really briefly. Is the Dallas Cowboys. Um, me and Josh, we watched the game together, the 49ers and Dallas Cowboys last week or last night, I'm sorry. And Dak Prescott looked borderline unplayable. He had back to back to back drives where he threw interceptions. And a lot of interceptions, you could blame it on the receivers. All three of these were on Dak Prescott. They were either complete nowhere near receiver or they were just horribly placed where the receiver couldn't get it. My take
yeah,
is fourth quarter comes, it's garbage time, 30-point game. They don't go with Trey Lance, they go with Cooper Rush. Why do you think that is?
um I, I've I really don't know. I don't know if maybe these teams see something that maybe we just don't see as fans. Maybe we're just all casuals, but I mean, I don't think Trey Lance is that bad. Like I don't. There's no way Trey Lance has shown that he's just a terrible third string QB in the very minimal amount of games that he's played. So at practice, the film room, something somewhere, these teams must be seeing something from him where they're just like, we can't play this kid. Like he just doesn't know the game yet. I hope his career pans out, but man, the way it's going right now, I don't get it. I really don't get it.
To me, I think this is kind of just my theory, and this might really ruffle some feathers here. Dak Prescott is the face of the Cowboys. The Cowboys are the richest sports team in the world, right? They're America's football team. And like I said, Dak Prescott's the face of that. You don't want the face of your franchise, the most popular franchise in the world, to have headlines saying that you guys benched them. And I think the reason they don't want to play Trey Lance in a time where they're down by 30 points is because there's a chance Trey Lance could light it up and they would almost be forced to bench Prescott and start Lance. That's my take on it.
I mean, if you're a Cowboys fan though, I mean, surely you're thinking, why are we still playing Dak? I mean, it's not like he's been that great since his rookie season. I hate to say
No,
it,
no, I agree.
but like it's just, especially with last night's performance and especially in that fourth quarter, like what is he showing you that's preventing you from benching him? And I I can kind of see your point, but at the same time, I don't think you'd find a single Cowboys fan that would say, "Oh hell yeah, start Dak Prescott," like all the time with confidence. I guarantee you, there's more Cowboy fans that want to move on from Dak Prescott so badly right now than keep starting him.
Definitely, definitely. And his rookie year, he was backed up from a top 5 running back in Elliott, and by far, by leaps and bounds, the best offensive line we've seen in a long time. That offensive line was so stacked behind Zach Martin that he had all the time in the world to do whatever he want. Any professional quarterback is going to succeed in what that rookie year Cowboys team was. Now,
I mean, we're seeing it with Jalen Hurts right
exactly,
now.
exactly. Now you lose a piece, people get injured. You lose a running back like Zeke Elliott. Now he kind of had a drop off as well, which is another result of that O line. But you start seeing him, and you kind of got to be like, from an NFL quarterback standpoint, is he your guy to lead you to a Super Bowl? And it's not. He's not.
Yeah, yeah. I don't think he's the long term. Uh, I don't think he's the long term decision over in Dallas, and hopefully they can realize that soon. Unless he has some weird turnaround, he's not looking like they need to keep him any longer than what they've kept
I
him.
know next week they
But
play the Chargers, and if I was a betting man, I'd put a lot of money on the Chargers.
yeah, Justin Herbert, by the way, has looked
Oh my
phenomenal.
gosh, yes. And I've always said that. I love Justin Herbert.
He's great. He's great. So to end us off here, Parker, I want to talk some rookies. So to end us off here, let me get your take on who your. Let's go with three rookies of note from you, and then three rookies of note for you as far as best and worst goes. So give me your three best rookies that you've seen so far, and then give me your three worst rookies that you've seen so far. And I know that we might not know every single rookie, and that's fine. If you can't name three, that's also fine. Just give me a name.
So the first one, as far as best, I think it's kind of leaps and bounds. CJ Stroud. what he's done in Houston in
Mm-hmm.
such a short time. Now the Houston, you don't really
Mm-hmm.
see. I mean, now we are a little bit, but it's not like the W's are just rolling in. It's still a hard fought win every week. But CJ Stroud could be the future of that Houston franchise. Um, Receiver from your team, the Vikings, Jordan Addison. He's looked phenomenal. He's looked great. Um, and that's even with him being the backup to a receiver like Justin Jefferson, which is pretty insane to think that he's had putting up the season so far that he has behind such a great receiver in Jefferson. And
Hey, listen, real quick, as a Vikings fan, I just want to say, since the moment we drafted him, since the second we drafted him, I said he would be great. And the reason I said that is because you look at Justin Jefferson, he's getting double teamed every week. Who does that open up catches for?
it
Jordan
really
Addison.
does.
So I just want to let it be known that I have been saying he will be
And then
great.
for my third best rookie, this is so hard because there's so many good rookies this year offensively. Just
There are.
because so far what we have seen, and you could just say it's because how many times he gets the ball thrown to him. Puka for the Rams. How do you pronounce his last name? Nakua.
Nakua.
Puka Nakua. I mean, you got to put him there. What he has done so far, and like I said, I know he gets not last week because Cup came back, but I mean before Cup, he was getting 15 targets a game, and that could be why. But I mean, he has been unbelievable. He catches every ball and he makes plays. His run after catch is unbelievable. He's got one of, if not the best, out of all receivers in football, and like all receivers.
Yeah. Puka is breaking records every week, and with Cup back, I mean, I know it was his first week back, but we saw production from Puka, so he's looking like a very promising receiver. Do you have three worse for me, or do you have at least one?
What I would like to see more of is Bryce Young for the Panthers. Somebody that now that Carolina offense is in shambles. They don't have anybody to go to at all. So you could blame that a little bit on that, as well as the O line's terrible in Carolina. But Bryce Young just hasn't really settled into that starting role in the NFL yet. Especially if you compare him to somebody like CJ Stroud, who's in a pretty similar bad situation offensively with as far as his weapons go. I would like to see a lot more from Bryce Young as far as just taking control of a game.
I agree. So, very quickly, I'm just going to
Yeah,
run
for
through
sure, for sure.
mine. A little bit of a description. So, my three bests, I'm going to go with obviously CJ Stroud. I'm going to go ahead and pass on him just because you said him. I'm going to go with Devon Achane from the Miami
Wow, I
Dolphins.
forgot about him.
I mean, just talk about an impact. I mean, came in, had an amazing week at the same time that Raheem Mostert had an amazing week when they scored 70 points. And then since that game has just been production, just pure production on a well-oiled machine of an offense. My second rookie of notice, I think I'm going to go two defensive guys here. My second one of notice is Jalen Carter on the Philadelphia Eagles. Just again, you want to talk about immediate impact. He's not getting full-time snaps, but when he's in, he's just manhandling these grown men of offensive linemen who have been in the league for years. This is this kid's first year in the league, and he's out there manhandling guys and just tossing them to the side and getting through the line like it's nothing. And that is just, it's unbelievable to see. And then my third guy is a teammate of CJ Stroud, Will Anderson Jr. What he's been able to do for that Texans defense is, I mean, coming into a team that's led by a guy like D'Amico Ryans. I mean, you want to talk about defensive minds. D'Amico Ryans is him. And Will Anderson Jr. has been nothing but great since the start of the season, and he is looking like a Rookie of the Year front runner right now, and he's just
My thing about
outstanding.
Will Anderson, really
My
quick, is that if you sit there, if you Google Will Anderson, you look up his stats really quick on ESPN, his stats aren't there, but he's the type of player that you watch and you're like, he is so much better than the box score is putting out. He just like he is an automatic threat every single time that ball is snapped. I 100% agree with you. Will Anderson is the real deal.
Yeah, I mean the guy just he flies around the field. He's so quick and he's strong as well. So yeah, I'm very impressed by him and the way that he has been an immediate impact for that Texans team. My three worst ones, I can't confidently say I have three, but one, obviously, I'm going to go ahead and go Bryce Young as well. I think the guy can have good moments. I think he'll be okay. He got kind of put into a pretty bad situation, but I mean, his connection with Adam Thielen looks pretty damn good. And like I said, I think he'll be okay, but that team is just so in shambles right now that it's really hard. Um, my second player, if I had to say one, I would probably go with. Let's see here. Let's see if I can even think of one. I mean, like you said, so many rookies are just outstanding so far, so it's really hard to kind of
Yeah,
pinpoint
I got
one.
one for you.
Um,
Which is
yeah, go ahead.
it's not really him. It's not that he's having a bad year. It's kind of that he was also put in an unfortunate circumstance right now, being so young and inexperienced. Is Jameer Gibbs being in Detroit? He just hasn't got the playing time. He hasn't got the touches yet, especially compared to what the beginning of the season, what everybody thought he was. Now that could be David Montgomery having a hell of a season so far. Um, and Gibbs just hasn't really found his place yet. And that could be a practice thing. He could just not be showing it in practice. Um, but he just kind of hasn't lived up to expectations so far.
Yeah, I think a lot of people coming into the season assumed he might be the lead guy, but it just hasn't looked like that. So I by no means am going to give up on him. I think he's a very good running back, but until he gets that lead role, I just don't think we're going to be able to see his full potential as a runner and a pass
Right,
catcher.
right.
Honestly, that's really the only names that I can think of off the top of my head. Like we said, so many rookies are just doing amazing things this year. Honestly, it's looking like a very stacked rookie
Do you
class.
think Bijan Robinson has he lived up to expectations or he hasn't met them yet, being 5 weeks in?
Um, I, it's hard to say because when you look at Bijan Robinson, you look at a running back prospect that hasn't gotten that much hype since Saquon Barkley, and if you want to go further than that, since Reggie Bush, um, and he came into a team that led the league in um, rushing as far as like attempts and just rushing in general last year, and it's very obvious that they're just still doing the same thing, pounding the rock over and over again, which just fucking pisses me off as a Drake London owner in fantasy. But I mean, I think he has. I think Bijan Robinson is one of the top rookies so far this season. He's been able to do very good things, and he's putting up a good stat line so far
Definitely,
this
definitely.
season.
I agree. I would like to see him run the ball with a purpose more, if that makes sense. I feel like he has the ability to be so explosive when he gets that ball, and we have yet to really we see spurts of it here and there, but just to really just let it loose, just unleash his inner dog, and just tear up teams like we've all what we've everybody's hyped him up to be. I feel like he's a little timid when he gets that ball.
Yeah, I think he can definitely run with a purpose. I just yeah, like you said, I think he's just got to show it a little
Yeah,
bit.
definitely, definitely.
You know what? I'll go ahead and give another name for worst rookies, and I think this might just because he hasn't had the ability to show his capabilities yet. But it's Quentin Johnston. They drafted him in the first round, that being the Chargers, and he hasn't touched the field like at all, pretty much, and it makes me question whether they drafted him to. And they drafted him in the first round, and when you take a receiver in the first round, if you take a skill position in the first round, you'd assume they would be an immediate impact, and you'd assume they'd use him immediately, and they just haven't done that. And so with the Mike Williams injury, very unfortunate injury, by the way. But with that injury happening, I wonder if he's going to be shot up into that wide receiver 2 spot. And I'm excited to see how he does. But yeah, thus far, I just haven't seen anything from him. I haven't heard anything of him. So very interesting. Very interested to see how he
Yeah,
does.
especially in a such a now obviously they have Eckler, but even Eckler gets him. He's mainly a passing back, really, um, or receiving back, I should say. Um, Such a pass heavy offense the Chargers have, and like you said, Mike Williams going down, that leaves that number 2 spot wide open behind Keenan Allen. I think that he'll be all right going forward. Obviously, they coming off the bye week this week, correct? I think they're. I'm pretty sure they were on
Let me
bye this
check
week.
that real quick.
Okay.
Yeah, they were.
I think going forward he'll be fine, but it also again that could be the same thing that I was saying earlier. It could also be a practice thing. We don't know what he's doing in practice. Maybe he's just not showing against the practice squad that he's ready for the big time, and maybe he's kind of just being mentored by Keenan Allen, Mike Williams, who's injured, um, and he's more or less a project instead of a win now player.
For sure, for sure. A lot of questions with him, but like we both said, with Mike Williams going down, there's definitely some promise there with him getting skyrocketed into that wide receiver 2 spot potentially. But also on top of that, though, he's got some people he's got to compete with for touches. You know, you got Joshua Kelly, you got Joshua Palmer, so excited to see him
Yeah.
nonetheless. So that is going to do it for us for episode 2 of the Take His Whistle podcast, but episode 1 of the NFL aspect of this podcast. Parker, you got anything to say to
No,
the
thank you
people?
guys for listening. If you guys really did make it this far, um, I've said it last time. I said it again. I'm so excited to continue doing this, and I hope you guys are willing to stay listening, watching, and supporting us through it all. Um, Again, like earlier, we had a couple some technical difficulties. Still not perfect. We're working on it. I need to get better audio. That's a given for sure. Um, and college football. The second episode of the college football podcast can be coming out soon, and we got a lot to talk about with that one.
A lot. Yeah.
That is going to be a fun episode. So I hope you guys are waiting for that and just stay tuned.
Very excited for it. All right. Thank you guys for listening, and we will see you guys in the
See ya.
college football episode.